So I guess like the fundamental basis of it is a predict next action.
Yeah.
And I think what we both agreed on was the predict next action will be imperfect. So what we need to just build is a system. Yeah, that makes it so that the limitation of it just turns. If we think of a spectrum of how often it will predict next action, maybe we can say right now we're at 70-80%. And so in order to gap that last 20%, we need
human feedback.
Yeah, and that human feedback we can actually use with RLHF to start filling this in, and if we get access to like the open source models are catching up to base GPT-4. Eventually our core language model, which is driving the natural language processing, is going to get stronger too. So it's like
both of them are getting stronger.
Correct. So like building this infrastructure right now, massively key in my opinion. If we sort of think about like what is the moat in AI? A lot of companies are saying we have no moat, even the Google and what's the other? Google and OpenAI. I mean, it was from a Google employee who wrote, "We have no moat, and neither does OpenAI." But I think OpenAI does have a moat, and I think Midjourney has a moat, and I think the biggest moat that you can have is RLHF. This human feedback stuff is what has propelled base models to be the next step. Is user base. It's users, and that's the same thing that it was in social media. That was one where it was bound by connections between the social network, but now it's just having the top performing solution in a certain category. And so the category of images is then Midjourney. Category of LLMs is then OpenAI, who has one RLHF, and sort of this future biggest category that I think exists in the world is action transformer, is the ability to automate the jobs, because it's the bridge between intelligence that exists within AI and that intelligence being productive in the world and in the workflows of the world. The majority of all GDP of the world exists inside of work that is done digitally on a computer by a human working with that interface. And that means this is, the most fundamental mass opportunity that exists in the world today, especially to the degree of a first movers market, where if you get the initial RLHF data, Adept AI, any of the competitors, that will be a missing step. We all have the same access to the same base models. I assume the underlying code function of saying, take this thing, take the action which the user says, turn it into the step functions, and use Selenium to go hit those. That's not even a moat, There's not a software moat. And really what we're trying to do here is, if we zoom it out towards not just a capital basis of like we want to make the best company in the world, but a basis of we want to make sure that the world goes in the best direction possible. It is then using that leverage in order to enact all of the other necessary steps, which I think is something, if I were to critique OpenAI on, is my biggest critique, is you are not putting out or spending enough time taking the world's attention that you have, they have the world's attention on them, towards really spelling and giving people and upgrading people's education on the world's biggest problems of today. Because that is always how the best problems get fixed. A problem well stated is half solved. A problem well stated to half the world is inevitably solved. And so specifically for stuff like AI governance, what they're doing with WorldCoin, the actual plan. They haven't even open sourced or said, here's what we plan to do. And it's like, how far away are they from actually having this capability? And so that would be the fundamental piece of, if I'm looking at the world and I want to service the world to the highest degree, where I'm like, there's a chance that they don't talk about this. I hope they do talk about this. I'm a little confused on why they're not, like they put one small blog post out, where saying was like,
a couple interviews.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
but he didn't dive into like AI governance, which is the key note. Government of the future is like the most important thing to get correct. End all be all. It is an inevitable one world government. It will come from the massive power that this AI model has, the main AGI. To some degree, we're not building towards having the super intelligent AGI though. We're building the most existential accelerating AGI possible by having a user, right now a user interacting with the language model. Most people actually have no idea how strong it is. If you give ChatGPT to your friend who hasn't really heard about it or knows what to ask, they treat it like a dumb chatbot. And they ask a couple questions, and I've seen this in real time, hand me the computer back, and they're like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And then I'm like, watch this, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to show them the capabilities of this thing. And so, you know, I think a very small percentage of the world still actually understands the strength of the intelligence underneath this thing, right? You actually have to pry and open it up. And so where is the strength of the intelligence going to be the most waking up for the world ever? It is when they watch their very own source of income and livelihood before their eyes get operated on. Because once they see 80% of it, they can extrapolate it out and understand that what element of themselves is there is bound to also get pushed out. Some jobs right away, the entire spectrum will be filled. To a degree, we can kind of think of the entire job market right now in terms of automatability on different spectrum points. And I think Goldman Sachs put out a report on this where they showed what their estimates of those projections were, how much of someone's job today can be pushed on. So I think that's a good overview. I think we have enough of the why, right? We start with why, and now
Let's move to how.
now why, how. So I also think we have a good base layer of how. And this is something I should probably update all the hackathon people on, or right now I'll make 2 more job posts. I'll just duplicate the old ones to get a fresh batch in. Of pushing them rather than try to go full autocomplete on these tasks.
Yeah.
I've never seen someone made the UI liaison driver. And that's the fundamental switch, is we're switching the basis of operating your computer from you being the main clicker of certain buttons, and we're changing it to you coming in to fill in the gap. Because right now, it is, you know, we just switched. The fundamental thing which has changed in the world to allow this to be possible today, that wasn't possible 6 months ago, was LLM capability, being able to accurately actually do a majority of a lot of the stuff that they do day to day. And you know, once you actually think in this mindset, once I think you start thinking about this and you do your own work, you'll start seeing a lot of your own work for like how little of it you are necessary for.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting, you know? And I start imagining the prompts that I might be able to give in order for it to do the right thing for these certain things. That is a fundamental upgrade that I think could be a good way for anyone to start when they're thinking about building this thing. Just get on your computer, go do some of your tasks, and speak out loud first the prompt to yourself, which you're about to do. You'll realize that a lot of it is like stuff that is entirely capable, and it's the infrastructure section. I think should we do a reboot on
How it's made.
What's that?
How it's made?
Yeah, should we do just like a dive back into where we're on the small thing? I think that'd be good. Go ahead and just double click it. Stop start.